be your peace. After you leave a person or they leave you, your number one goal should not be proving anything to them. Your number one goal should not be trying to get revenge or anything like that. Your number one goal should be your peace. Because ultimately, when you let somebody into your heart and they were temporary, that's typically what they're going to leave with. But sometimes you can work against yourself. After a breakup, actually a lot of people do. I got this question on my last webinar, the Secrets to Making Evolvement Cravey webinar. For those who were able to get on, we do a Q&A at the end. One of the questions I got was, how do I get over a breakup? All right, so of course we did some digging and come to find out she was self-sabotaging her own healing process. And a lot of people do because what's on Instagram is to do this, that, and the other. First off, let's just go ahead and clear this out. Sometimes after a breakup, the relationship didn't work just because you guys weren't right for each other. It ran its course. You tried, he tried, but there was too much bickering and arguing, too much clashing over simple stuff. Maybe you guys just grew apart over time, and then you had to go your separate ways. So you got to handle that breakup completely different than if it's volatile and it's abusive or there's betrayal or something like that. If y'all just wasn't right for each other, then all you got to do is make sure you stay away from isolating yourself. Because typically whenever we break up with somebody, everybody that saw us together, that thought that we were going to make it, we feel like we're in shame, right? So you're afraid to talk and tell people or present the lowest version of yourself, the broken version of yourself. But there are people who love you. So if you just got out of a breakup and it wasn't a horrible relationship, y'all just could not make it work, don't isolate yourself and be very careful about going to people, because you should surround yourself with love, but be careful about going to people that's just going to help you bash your ex. And sometimes people will do that with good intentions because they want to validate you. They want you to feel seen. But if you bash your ex, more than likely, you're going to manufacture some level of resentment. And not only will you have resentment for them, but you're probably going to have resentment for anybody else that you possibly could be with. That energy is going to be exuded from you, and you're going to push away somebody who could love the healthiest version of you. And you may even start acting out of character, out of that resentment, because now you're vengeful because, this person just framed everything in your most vulnerable state. This person just framed everything your ex did as this horrible, vicious, malicious thing, when in reality they're just really trying to make you feel seen, and they hate that you're hurting right now. Now, completely different if you had a really messed up relationship. If there was betrayal, if there was abuse, if there was anything where you got just dang near ruined, like you just got brought to your knees, you got hit in the stomach. If you had that type of relationship, after that relationship ends, there's one thing, well, there's a few things. But one thing we're going to start with that you got to make sure you do not do is allow any small little door open back in. This is why no contact is so valuable. If you got broken in that relationship, and I need y'all to just use your discernment, okay? After a relationship, everybody going to have some grieving. But if that person treated your heart with zero regard, if you know that the only thing that you really did wrong was stay too long, if that person had you living a whole lie, right? Like got you looking at yourself differently, you cannot allow any space for them to get back in, because what a person will do is they'll understand they just messed it up for all the real intimate stuff y'all used to be on. Like y'all can't go straight back into the bedroom. Y'all ain't about to have no candlelit dinner, but they might ask something like, hey, what do you think about like a coffee date? Let's just have a talk. Something small, something non-threatening, something where your guard's not going to be super high. And now, why do people allow this, even with somebody that hurt you? Because typically after a relationship ends like that, first off, before the relationship ended, you were in your thought loops, trying, willing to have the conversation over and over again, even though you were hurting. So what they're trying to do is leverage that continuation. Yeah, you had the courage to finally say, I'm done. Yeah, you had the courage to finally say, I don't want to be with you anymore. But that don't mean that those thoughts shut off. And what happens is when we have those types of thoughts, we think of one person over and over and over again. And so now you're getting indignant. Now you've experienced anxiety and stress, maybe some depression. Maybe you think about the good times and the bad times. And all you can think about is that one person and all these things that you didn't say in a relationship that, you just wish you could say one more time, whether it's to make them feel it or if you think that could actually give them the understanding of how you feel. And so they present themselves back and say, hey, look, let's just have a talk. And just the thought that maybe you could get on that conversation, or maybe you can get that apology so you could finally get some closure. Maybe you could see some sympathy in their eyes for what they did to you. It's going to be tempting. And the vulnerable version of you cannot handle it. The vulnerable version of you is likely to let that person in all over again. Put I down in the chat if you've ever been in that situation. You got an ex that just totally wrecked everything. But then a small little conversation, a small little just checking on you text, a small little just, hey, let's just meet up at the ice cream shop, for Junior's birthday that passed 6 months ago. It turns into a whole nother new relationship that's just as bad, if not worse than the last one. Put I down in the chat if you've ever been there. So be very careful after a breakup with any little open door. Of course, you want to be careful about how, you lurking on their Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. But we already know that, so I'm not going to talk to that too long. But a lot of times you'll let that little bitty text, like sometimes what they'll do is, especially if he's a narc, ladies, or fellas, if she's a narc, what they'll do is they'll throw out that bait. They'll do something to say something to try and trigger you into a conversation. They'll take that little bitty coffee date, lunch date, smoothie date, whatever. Not even a date. We just gonna link up. Dang, we spent X amount of years together. We can't just talk. And they'll throw out some type of bait. If you hadn't have done that, sure, I could tell you never loved me anyway. That's why those little open doors, they're so dangerous. Another thing that you want to stay away from is over-explaining. If you were the problem, if you know, or if maybe you're not the problem, maybe you just didn't do things perfectly. Maybe you didn't do things exactly as you wish you had. You were emotionally invested. You all up in your feelings. And guess what? We all capable of getting out of character if the emotions are high enough, especially if there's been a long erosion over time where you just been taking, and then finally you... Be careful not to over-explain yourself. Be careful not to let that shame eat you up to where now you're the one opening that door to somebody who is actually the problem. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. I've always been very careful about talking about this subject because it's a slippery slope, but there's a thing called reactive abuse. And I don't know how many of y'all have ever heard of this concept. It's an actual concept, you can Google it, but I'm gonna tell you in short. Basically, it's whenever a victim endures so much abuse from a person, they reactively abuse that person. Now, in the hands of a narc or a manipulator, they'll make that seem like that's the issue at hand. Now, the reason why I say that's such a slippery slope is because either person can use this. Oh, I only did this because you did this first. Well, I only did this because you did this. Oh, you're not taking accountability. And then you got a whole mess. So use your discernment, use your intuition. Think back to the very first time that you got out of character. The very first time you know that you called him out of his name. Very first time you maybe got violent. Whatever it is that you did. Let's just say you went all the way there. Maybe you even cheated back. The very first time that you did that, was it a form of abuse on his end that preceded that? If so, not you got pissed off, not he was just being neglectful, not he just kind of used the bad tone and he hadn't been really attentive to your needs. We ain't talking about that. But was it an actual form of abuse that preceded what you did that was so bad? Then that was reactive abuse, okay? It doesn't justify what you did, but it's something to be very careful about and blaming yourself. Now, if you're the one that started everything, absolutely. You're at fault, take accountability, go get healing, get yourself together, and maybe you guys can make it work on down the road once you actually make the changes. But if you are in a situation where you were reactively abusive, you absolutely need to do some work anyway, just so nobody can get you out of character like that. But you also need to release that shame that you were the problem. You were not the problem. You may have made the already bad problem worse, but you were not the problem. Anybody would have gotten out of character if they got hurt the way that you got hurt. Anybody would have snapped out and got angry and said some choice words if they got broken down like you got broken down. Anybody would have said enough is enough. I've given you the respectful, kind version of me. You clearly don't want that, so F it. Anybody can get to that point if they keep getting poked over and over and over again. So again, it's not to justify what you did or make it right, but that's you just being human. So continue to grow through that, but don't get in a situation where you take that and you say, I gotta explain myself, I gotta make it right. I'm feeling so guilty because of how I reacted to already there abuse. One more thing you need to stay away from after a breakup is jumping right into a new relationship. Now, let's be real, we all done been there. Maybe not relationship, maybe situationship. Maybe a hookup, something to distract you, numb you, or et cetera, et cetera. But if you form that soul tie after your breakup with that person, even though you know you're not ready for a relationship, even though you may say, okay, no relationship, that soul tie still gonna be there. Now, if the person is great, maybe y'all can make it work or whatever, but the chances for that are slim to none. If you jump straight into something within a day or two, you're gonna go smash his homeboys or that other ex that, you know what I'm saying, been begging for a chance ever since he seen you move on after him, whatever. Or a new dude because that's what your dude did. He smashed a girl, so you need to make him feel it in his chest. You gonna feel it in your soul a lot longer. I'm just like, word to the wise. I'm not here to police you or body shame nobody, whatever y'all like to call host shame, whatever. Look, if you do that and it's like right after the breakup, now some of y'all, if you know like I know, you can mentally check out of a relationship. Therefore, you can already done your healing and moving on and grieving process during a relationship. So it may seem like you're doing a rebound when really you're not. But if you know that relationship came crashing down, you were fully in love, fully invested, and then boom, you jump right into somebody else, even if that person has everything that you want in a person and a man, you're not in any position to truly give your all there. You got some things to work out with that emotional dust settling down. You have to learn how to be alone again and fall in love with being alone again so that whoever comes into your life has to upgrade your singleness, not just soothe those open wounds from that last relationship that didn't work out. And then you have to be real with yourself, because one thing that breaking up with a person will do is it will push you into a form of denial. That pride will say, because I know that I deserve better, I don't need this person and I don't want this person. A lot of that is the emotion talking. Even if you know that you can do better than this person, they didn't do you right, you do not want to go back. More than likely, as a human who invested their all, you still got some feelings tied in there. The feelings don't go away that easily if you really were in love at any point. It takes time. And if you are going to meet your person, they deserve the healed version of you. At least a version of you that's functional enough to give your best self to them without that emotional dust settling after a while. The honeymoon phase, it's so addicting, the honeymoon phase with a new person. It'll make you feel like you've moved on just fine. But after that settles down, you're going to be vulnerable again to the person you never healed from, even if they ain't right for you. And this is just a part of y'all just evolving. This is stuff that most men and women don't learn until they done been through it themselves. So if you still going through it, have some grace with yourself. But if you actually done the work, then what you need to do is make sure that you can position yourself for somebody else who has also done the work. Because after a breakup, the last thing you want to do, and this is the last point we're going to touch on, is repeat the pattern. To go right back to another of the exact same type of person that just got a different face. Different smile, different clothes, but the exact same loop. I don't know how many of y'all ever been through that. Put I down in the chat. If you got over one person, you did the work, you took your time, you lit your candles, took yourself on, dates and stuff, you did the therapy, and then you ran right back into the exact same type of guy that had the exact same type of behavior. And then in that situation, you probably start wondering if the problem was really you, because you're the common denominator. The problem ain't you. The problem is you haven't broken the pattern by changing how you choose. And the first part to changing how you choose is changing what you attract. And if you don't know how to attract better, I did a whole masterclass explaining and breaking down how to upgrade what you attract. And it works. It's already worked for thousands of women. Those of y'all who have already seen the free masterclass, if you joined in, you know. And if you haven't yet, I put the link right down here in the comments, Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You. Get access to that masterclass tonight. You'll be glad that you did. Before it comes down, because it's coming down soon, click that link, get access to the free masterclass, Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You, where I break down the strategies to attracting evolved men who have done the work, like you've done the work, hopefully. And I even go in on how you can do the work if you're not sure. If you're still looping thoughts of your ex and hurt, trust issues, can't let nobody in, there's things you can do to fast track that process to give yourself closure and then attract evolved men. The link is also in the caption when you back out. But moral of the story is this. If you gave your all to a relationship, I don't care if that person was good, bad, or ugly, a piece of you is likely to still be invested in that relationship even when it ends. And so you got to be mindful about what you do with that piece of you so it doesn't create multiple pieces of your heart that's already broken. But Those are just my thoughts. I'm your internet brother trying to look out. If you got anything of value from this, share the value with somebody else in your timeline by clicking that share button. Be a blessing to somebody else. Share this right here. Click the share button, that little arrow, click it. Share it with people on your timeline so they can be blessed as well. And if you're in the market for an evolved man, click that link that you see pinned right down here. Click that link. It's also in the caption. If you don't see this link right here in this comment, click the link that you see pinned in the description anyway and get access to secrets to making evolved men crave you. Do yourself a favor. Again, it's absolutely free. But I'll holler at y'all later. Y'all be good.